Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. We got a big show for you guys. Today we're going to talk about the Phillies finally getting Bryce Harper, and then we're going to talk about the sad trade with Wayne Simmons. We say goodbye to the Wayne train. All of that and much more coming up on STP.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Welcome back. Alongside Tyler Small and Sam Brown, I am your host, Josh Abrams. Today, we are going to get into the big headlines that are surrounding the Philadelphia sports teams, and the biggest one that by far tops everything else is the Bryce Harper signing. We have finally secured him, guys. 13 years, $330 million. The biggest part is what you see on the graphic there, in my eyes, is the no opt-out option. Let's start by just getting your guys' general reactions. I mean, you guys got to be happy about this, right?
Ecstatic. He's going to be a Philly for life at this point. After all this waiting and all these negotiations, it finally happened, and I believe it'll be worth it in the long run.
I'm just so happy it's over. I cannot believe it happened, actually. I'm not surprised by the number of, or how much money he's getting, I should say, but I am surprised at how long it's going to be, because now he'll be a 39-year-old still making $25 million with, as you said, zero chance of opting out, but I think he is worth every penny.
And I think it's certainly worth noting that, it's when you change your environment there, he goes from playing in Washington, and now he's playing in a really, really hitter-friendly park in Citizens Bank. There are a lot of people that are going to doubt this because of how much his batting average dropped last year. He batted just below 250. Not really something you want to see from a guy that you're paying this much money to, but nevertheless, what do you guys think? Is there anything significant that makes it so encouraging?
Well, for one point, going off of that, I think even better than just the hitter-friendly park is he's getting out of the toxic Washington sporting complex. I think they really do ruin talent there, especially with the Nationals. There's so many internal problems. So I think, for one, him getting out of there was great. And plus, you do say he had a drop-off in his average, but besides that, all of his numbers stayed steady. And probably the biggest statistic that we look about nowadays is his OPS. His OPS was still 900 last year. He has a career WAR of 27.4. This kid is only going to be going up, and now with a hitter-friendly park, with a better coaching staff, and a team built around him, I think they just elevated themselves from hopefuls to win the NL East to World Series possibilities. I think they should be favorites, actually.
And this is just the icing on the cake of what was already such a great offseason, given the moves the Phillies had already made with bringing in JT Realmuto, Andrew McCutchen, Gene Segura. They're going to be an offensive powerhouse in the National League, and Bryce Harper really cements that status for the Phillies this season and for the next several seasons going forward.
Now, as much as we would like to stay and talk about this, I think we should talk about the Eagles now, because there's also big news going on there where the Eagles are not going to tag Nick Foles. They're going to let him become a free agent, as well as Nelson Aguilar when they came out this week that they were open to trading him. How do you guys feel? Tyler, I know you're a big Foles guy. What are your thoughts, not only about Foles but Aguilar as well?
Devastated to see St. Nick go, but we all knew it was coming. We all knew he wasn't going to be franchise tagged. And the only thing I would say comes from this is I think the Eagles did a terrible job of managing him. Now they're losing what we talked about back in the debate a while ago, is how much they could get for him, how much they're going to get back for him, because he's such a hot market right now, hot ticket item. Now they get him for nothing. Now he's just going to go wherever he wants. He could wind up in a Miami or a Jacksonville, and the Eagles have no say in it. So I think that was pretty poorly managed. But Nelson Aguilar, I haven't read much about that. I haven't seen much about that, but I'm strongly discouraged for it. They still need to have those weapons around Wentz.
And I agree with that. I believe that Nelson Aguilar needs to stay here and be an available receiver for Wentz. Talking about Nick Foles, I think that this is the best thing for him. He wasn't going to have a starting job here. He was only going to be a backup here and probably in many probably in some other spots too, but now he's free to go wherever he wants, and he can get that starting job that he knows that he can earn right out of training camp.
And he deserves it. You're 100% right.
And I guess it's worth really noting that if we do end up moving Aguilar, we're going to have to try and re-sign Golden Tate, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. Without Aguilar, he becomes the wide receiver 1 for this team. Of course, because you can't really count Ertz in that equation.
What about Alshon?
I still think that Tate, he really did not fit in as well as he could have. I guess it was just a short time, not really understanding the coaching method at first, but I think he should be wide receiver 1. I think he has the talent and speed for it.
Alshon still has the youth. He still has the energy. Golden Tate is getting a little bit on that older side, so he's sort of slowing down a little bit. He's still a great wide receiver. He knows the game very well. He's a very seasoned receiver, and he can continue to get the job done for the Eagles.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our little headlines portion. This was definitely unexpected because this Harper, we knew about the Foles and Aguilar stuff, but Harper we just found out about today, right before the show. But we're going to get into Flyers talk now, and I would really like to think that nothing has changed with these guys. It is encouraging these last couple of games, however, because on Saturday they hosted the Penguins, who always seem to be the Flyers' kryptonite for whatever reason, even though they're big rivals. They come up with a 4-3 victory in overtime, come back. They were down 3-1. I was at the game. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay for the whole time, so I missed the comeback and the game-winning goal. That's just one game, obviously, but jumping off of that, how are you guys feeling about the Flyers now? Does anything in your head change from these last couple of weeks?
I'm still having the same thoughts that I had about them a week ago. I think they're at this point a possible contender to at least get into the playoffs. They are still quite a few points back at that second wild card spot, but they can still muster up quite a run to cement themselves in that position in the standings.
Yeah, nothing much changes for me. I'd say the only real takeaways I took from it were the goaltending situation. I think they need to be a little bit easier on Carter Hart. They were kind of overusing him, and now he's day-to-day with an injury. And Brian Elliott really did step up in the Stadium Series, giving up 3 goals. Well, had 40 saves in that game. It was pretty impressive. And then a couple nights later, took on a very talented Sabres team, and he shut down Skinner and Eichel and only gave up 2 goals and got 36 saves. So he really is trying to prove something for himself, trying to come back and show that although he's going to be behind him for his rest of his time here with the Flyers, I still think he still has plenty to prove. He can still play.
Well, that last game against the Penguins also happened to be, unfortunately, the last game that we will most likely, maybe not, I don't know. Wayne Simmons is no longer a Flyer. I'm sad about it. I think if you're a Flyers fan, that you're really sad as well. I think what adds insult to injury, though, is what we got back for him. Now, I don't know a lot about Ryan Hartman. I know he's young. He's probably going to enter his prime pretty soon. Not really sure about his potential. Sam, how did you feel once you heard about the Wayne Train news, and what was your reaction to it?
I was quite disappointed to see such a beloved player in this city go. Someone who plays with vigor and grit and goes hard in everything he does. He's a man who wants to win, and unfortunately for him, that's not going to happen in this city, at least anytime soon. So I think being traded to a contender was the best thing for him if he had given that goal. The return for him, Ryan Hartman made his presence felt very early. I think Philadelphia is going to like this kid, and if Wayne Simmons does end up re-signing here in free agency, this tandem is going to be beloved here for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that we kind of got robbed in this trade, honestly. Yeah. Hartman, in 227 games, has 40 goals and 43 assists, so nothing to really, mind-boggling stats, I would say. But you said it perfectly. He exemplifies grit, Simmons, and he was just a true leader for this team through some of their lowest points and their highest point, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, and he was here, and Wayne was here. I think his rookie year was the year where we played the Penguins in that first round, where there was just a fight every other minute during that playoff series.
And he was always involved.
Yeah, and he was so he was around for a good amount of playoff appearances. He was able to make it out of the first round one year when the Flyers were on the latter end of that stretch with their older guys. It's really disappointing. And, like I said, I'm not sure how to feel about Ryan Hartman yet. Obviously, that hit he had and then the fight, that does seem promising. But
team player, it shows.
Also, only a conditional 4th-round pick.
Yeah, I wasn't
in the draft next year.
Means little to nothing to me. I think, if anything, the Predators just pretty much robbed us. Pretty much just got everything they got out of it. Because now Wayne Simmons is going to go onto that team that came up just short last season. And the last couple of seasons, they've always had a chance at it.
Yeah, and I think it also helps that he's going to be reunited with Peter Laviolette, who brought him into this Flyers organization.
Yep.
Do you see any significance there?
I mean, now it just shows how much he's grown since then. Now he's just going to be an even better example of it, and I think he'll be a great addition to the first or second line wherever he falls.
Your thoughts, Sam?
Having Laviolette as his coach, is a guy who's as tough as he is. He hasn't had that here in Philly in quite a while, so it'll give him an extra kick in the pants he needs to get going and finally win a championship.
So let's talk about. I mean, we keep looking ahead. And we talk about how, they're not too close, but they're within striking distance of a playoff spot. Hockey's one of those sports where you just never know what's going to happen, right? You see that they're a hopeful team. They're trying to get that last playoff spot, but they really need help in front of them. They need these teams that are in front of them in the division and in the wild card spots to lose. And I'm just not really sure if that's like, not too tall of a task. So what do you guys think?
Well, this next 6-game stretch, 5 of the next 6 games are against divisional opponents. So this is a very important stretch for them to win, to leapfrog Pittsburgh, Columbus, Carolina, maybe leapfrog Carolina in the standings. But this is the time. This is grind time. Go hard or go home.
I have to disagree once again. I'll go back to what I said last week. I still think it's better if they miss the playoffs. For the long run, for the long stretch of getting to the promised land, winning the Stanley Cup, I think it's better that they miss the playoffs this year, have an earlier exit than just the first round, which is what they've come to love almost. It's almost like that's their bar. That's where they have to go every year.
And the only problem with that is that, as a GM, as a coach, as anyone in the front office, they're not going to, as long as
you're not going to tank, obviously.
Yeah, right.
Not in this
you
situation,
can't tank at this point in the season because they're already in a playoff hunt right now. No. But the fact that if they don't make the playoffs, it'll give Carter Hart a chance to rest.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's if they're there, as long as they're mathematically in it, I think they're still going to try and.
Oh, of course, and I'm not discouraging that at all. But throughout this later stretch, I should say, not just to tank and tell your players not to go 100%, just start mixing in newer players, bring up more players from Lehigh, try and get them NHL experience, so that way you're built for the future and possibly rebuilding. If they are either going to be going for a playoff push or if they're going to go back to what they said a couple weeks ago where Giroux and Hart are the only ones that are safe, you never know. And Simmons being traded, I think, was a huge example of that it is going to be a rebuild.
So, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because the Flyers are about 7 points out. They don't really know what they're going to be doing with their goaltending situation, especially once Hart gets healthy. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Sixers, so stay tuned.
Kylie loves to an egg.
An egg?
An egg.
How does a general lose to an egg?
The internet to an egg.
You know, there is a show for that. It's called Backstage Pass.
See the new library plan?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, doing stuff in the library. Oh.
In the library?
Yeah.
New library.
You know, there is a show for that called LTV News where the action never stops.
I wonder how the basketball team.
You know, there is a show for that called SportsTalk.
So are you a Carson Wentz or Nick Foles guy?
More of a Nate Sudfeld team.
Oh, really? Interesting. Wonder where we can hear about Philly sports.
You know, there's a show for that called SportsTalk Philadelphia.
You like Family Feud?
Yeah.
You like all shows like that?
Yeah.
I wonder if LaSalle has a show like that. That'd be kind of cool.
There is a show for that called Q&A.
I really wish that we could just display our talents.
Yeah, me too.
There's a show for that called Explorers Got Talent.
All this and more on LaSalle TV.
According to statistics, 40 million adults suffer from depression or anxiety. 1 in 4 college students are affected by this as well. You never know who is going through something, so you should always be kind to one another. A little kindness can go a long way. It might even save a life.
Welcome back from the commercial break. Sam Brown steps off. Gia Lancey and Dave Roberts replace him to talk some Sixers. I'd like to think that we are very lucky right now. There's so many things going on with the Sixers right now I'm calmed down a little bit that we have the team that we have right now compared to before the trade deadline or even before we got Jimmy Butler. So I guess I don't even know where to start. How are you guys feeling right now? We're a half game back of the Pacers right now in the Eastern Conference somehow. I don't know how they're still ahead of us. But, what are your thoughts on the Sixers as we head into this segment?
I was just going to say, I still don't understand how Victor Oladipo-less Pacers are still top 4 team. And if they are, that's really going to – if it were in that scenario, then I can only see either the Celtics or us going above them. And then that would pretty much mean an early exit for one of those two teams. So as long as they get the Pacers out – unless we get the Pacers out, I'd still be a little concerned. But besides the injury scares, I think I feel very good about this team so far.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be like 100%. Like, I feel totally secure. I feel like we're definitely going to get in the playoffs. I feel so in that. No. But I think depending on who we play first round, like if we play the Celtics, I'm worried. Yeah, but that depends on that.
Which is what it looks like so far.
Yeah.
But you have to think about the Celtics right now as a team. They don't look too good. We see Kyrie in the headlines. I know it's not Sports Talk Celtics, but we got to talk about how the Celtics don't look too good as a team right now, and that's just a lot for the East. I know that the Sixers haven't really beat any big hitters in the East so far, but we look okay as of right now. I mean, it's weird to talk about the season as it ends because it's a lot of fighting for positions of where to end up in the playoffs, and a lot of people say the regular season doesn't matter because, I mean, technically it doesn't in the grand scheme of things, but we just want to get a better position right now. I think we should just start shooting for third and just try to stay there. Just hope that the Celtics don't fall back to 6, or we just have a solid team at 6, just to make sure that we get past the first round of playoffs, go past the second round, and just try to continue from there.
It's almost as if the Celtics just they come back to life whenever they play us, and I still can't figure it out.
I see that on Twitter all the time, and it annoys the living daylights out of me. And I just don't understand why the Celtics have our number, but we'll figure it out, I guess, at some point. We have to, right?
Yeah, exactly. We got a little bit ways to go until the playoffs come by, and we're probably gonna have to play the rest of this regular season. When Joel Embiid eventually comes back and is ready to get back to his normal self, it's really going to be just him and maybe Justin Patton and Jonah Bolden because, as we learned this week, we saw on Monday night when they played the Pelicans, Cheick Diallo falls on Boban's right knee, gets an MRI, and thank the Lord that it came back negative because he's only going to be out he's going to get reevaluated in a couple days, but he's supposed to be out for about 4 to 6 weeks, and I think that should be just enough recovery time for him to come back for the playoff series. We'll get into the stars later. I know you're big on Boban, Tyler, but
talk about it.
We love Tobias Harris without a doubt, but I really think that getting Boban in this deal was a huge dark horse.
Yeah, having a backup center just because we think about the Colangelo era where he got rid of Nerlens Noel, which was a huge surprise on most of us at the time because now he's doing a lot of things on the Thunder. But just having a backup center that can come in, put in enough minutes, just to get the job done, and even just clean up the boards that are needed on the defensive side and on the offensive side. Because if he gets the boards, he's going to kick it back out to either JJ or Jimmy, and they can get the shot off. So I'm really hoping that Boban comes back when playoffs start and we just, just start rolling in, just kicking butt.
Yeah, and I mean, the Heat game the other day, Boban had himself a game. He had really good numbers, like almost Joel Embiid-like numbers, and he had a lot of rebounds, so I was really happy with him that game.
Yeah, going off that, 19 points and 12 boards is definitely something we needed from him, and in his 3 games of starting, he dominated. I'll save my stats for my star, of course, but I think he has been such a huge dark horse, and I think come playoff season to have two of the best bigs to go into the playoffs, it's going to be huge. It's a huge catalyst.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge help. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Tobias Harris, ever since has he scored less than 20 points since he came to the Sixers? I mean, I don't think
maybe
he's
like a few games, honestly, but
if that.
Yeah, I mean, he has provided nothing but the offensive spark that we've been waiting for. And I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler wasn't capable of doing that, but he hasn't done that yet. Even though he did win 2 games himself, I get that. But I mean, Tobias Harris is such a smooth player. I love when he shoots the ball because it's like you watch it and it's like it's bound to go in, you know?
And I think that's the one thing I really love about just Tobias Harris in general, because he's bound to put up 20 points, but even if he doesn't, like if he puts up maybe 10, we know that Jimmy Butler can come in there and probably put up, like make up for that effort. And it's also the fact of just, it doesn't put a lot of offensive pressure on Jimmy Butler to do like too much like going, because there's a couple games where he's been 2 for 7 in the first half and it doesn't look well. So we can have Tobias take those shots that he can't make and just, clean up anything that doesn't really work well on offense.
And you bring up a good point with that. With Embiid coming out come the start of the second half of this year, I was pretty curious to see who would take over in scoring, who would be the leading scorer when you're losing pretty much 30 a game. And I'm surprised that it has been Harris. I figured it would be Simmons, even though only one of the 3 games it was. Or I figured it would even be Jimmy Butler or even J.J. Redick, but it's 20, what does he have, 23, 20, and 29 in the last 3 games. So he's really taken over for the loss of Embiid.
Yeah, and I think that it's a good point to bring up that he is a lot of help on the defensive end. I mean, he is a good stretch 4, too, in general. And, I mean, the Pelicans game the other night, he had the most points.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's definitely huge that we have Tobias, and it's definitely huge that we have the team that we have right now, because when you look at the fact that we're not going to have Joel Embiid or Boban for these next couple of games, it's got to concern you guys a little bit. I mean, Jonah Bolden's out here starting at center, second-year guy, not that much experience yet. He's got a long ways to go till he finds his niche in the league. It's only a few games, but do you think that's going to hinder not their playoff chances, obviously, but their seeding?
It definitely could, but the one thing that they have to get back to, and it's so easy to lose sight of your everyday guys besides Simmons and Embiid when you get all these fresh new faces, but J.J. Redick hasn't been himself lately because he hasn't been getting those same shots. In his last 3 games, he has 13, 7, and 16 points, and off of 33, 10, and 31% shooting. That's unheard of for him, and I would be worried that not only are his numbers down, but that he doesn't like his role with these new players.
Do you guys have anything to say about that, or anything regarding just like how the team looks right now without their
I'm not scared. I mean, obviously JJ is a concern because he's one of those guys that can make shots that a lot of people actually can't make. I don't think I've ever seen him make a stationary 3-point shot. He's always on the move. So I mean, I am worried about just his play in general, but I think he can get over that hump as soon as April comes around, and we'll just see where we're at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think JJ is a defensive liability too. I mean,
right.
And that's a problem.
We'll worry about that later. No more negative thoughts now. We're going to get into our stars of the month, and my guy for this month is Tobias Harris. I mean, he's been on an upward trend ever since he came into the league. He hasn't really been able to find that team that he feels comfortable with winning. And now that he's in a winning environment with a much better team, this has got to be the best team that Tobias Harris has played on in his career. I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to shine on the big stage, a stage that he may have never been at before. And I'm just really looking forward to see what he does for us this season. And if we can keep him, I would love to have him on this team for the rest of his career. Tyler, let's go to you. I hinted that your guy was Boban. Why is Boban your guy for the month?
and best friends with Tobias Harris, so you loved having the two of them together. But he has been great in the 7 games since he's been here. He has 9 points a game, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists a game, and a block per game, and 73% from the field, 71% efficiency rating. He's right up there with some of the greats, which obviously you can't really, but just because of that stat, he's up there with some of the greats. He's the second quickest to ever get to 1,000 points. He is probably mastered the backhand dunk. I don't even know what to call it. Doesn't even need to jump. He's a different player, a different human being. I love Boban.
All right, well, you're definitely right about that. No one's, I don't think anyone's as big as him. Gia, your guy is Carter Hart. And
Yeah,
why is that?
Carter Hart. In the 7 games he played in February, he's 5-3, and I think he's just taken the Flyers like on his back, and he's taken them from the cellar and put them in the playoff race. I mean, it's still unlikely. They're still 7 points back in the East, so it's still unlikely. But I mean, I think he gave them at least a chance, and we have a really bright future with him too. So.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to him. He's our age, basically. So it's really
He's like
cool.
4 days younger than me. So.
Dave, your guy is Wayne Simmons. Don't make us cry, man. Why?
Why? Because I mean, I don't have to say it. We all know why he was traded. I'm not even a big hockey fan in general, but this guy made me want to watch Flyers hockey. And I mean, I don't think I really have to say why I like the guy. I mean, we know. But the thing is, I'm really sad to see him go. You know, I hope he does well in Nashville. But you know, you could just tell from stuff on Twitter, he didn't look like he wanted to be there. You know, he really embodied, you know, just how Philly played hockey.
Didn't he look a little? He didn't look as enthusiastic in the warm-ups.
The one game we went to earlier in the season, he looked like he was ready to knock someone's head off. And the game that I saw on Twitter when he was just rolling out there, he looked like he wanted to sit on the bench for the rest of the game. So you know, it's sad to see him go. But I'm just happy that he was here and I was able to cheer for someone on the team.
You got to see a few games with him, right? Or with him on the ice.
Yeah,
right?
I did. But now he's gone, so never experienced it again.
Well, maybe he'll come back. We'll see how.
We'll see how it really works out.
But that's going to do it for today's show. We thank you guys for tuning in. You can catch us on social media on Twitter at SportsTalkLTV. You can catch us on LaSalle.edu/LaSalleTV. Catch us on Facebook and look us up on YouTube. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy it, and we'll see you guys next week.